Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about why I wanted luck in Fallout. It's, for me, early February. I've been snowed in for a few days, and this is a fun Friday video, and I figured, why not? If you remember, I talked about when Fallout had to be converted from GURPS to Special. Chris Taylor had a homebrew system he wanted to use, which we later added perks to when Brian Fargo said, hey, I want something for people to buy besides skills. But the attributes were just strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, and agility. There was no luck. I talk about this in the How We Made Fallout special vid. I really, really wanted luck to be in there because I had had a ton of fun with luck-based characters in GURPS, especially GURPS Supers, and in Champions, and in a few other tabletop role-playing games that had luck in them. If you watch my Interplay After Hours video, I talk about a character I had called Lucky Boy who bought all the different luck advantages or powers that were in the tabletop I was using, and was just insanely fun to play. It wasn't that he was good at anything, it's just he frequently got lucky and scored critical hits or critical with a skill, and then anyone who tried to attack him frequently messed up and hurt themselves and other people around them. It was fun. Because of that, I wanted in Fallout. I wanted something like that. First of all, I wanted it as an attribute. Because I remember when I brought it up, people were like, well, we're just throwing a luck perk. And I'm like, no. As a perk, that means some people won't have it. So when you go, what's the luck on them? It'll just be 0. They don't have any. But also, no one could have bad luck. Because we didn't have any kind of disadvantage. We had traits, but traits were always paired with something, which meant the only way to get bad luck would be to pair it with something. And we did do Jinxed, which was, bad things happen to you and people around you. But that's not exactly what I wanted. I wanted you to have good luck and bad luck, and that required a range positive and negative, which we had in attributes. So if it was an attribute, not only would everyone have it, but we could reference it anywhere in the game where an attribute could be. Dialogues, scripts, which we already had the systems in place for doing that, for accessing attributes there. Items and effects could adjust it, so you could have something that would temporarily boost or reduce your luck, which I thought was cool. And all of this was trivial to add because if you watch the How We Made Fallout special, the code I'd written was modular. It already understood attributes, and all the accessors for attributes were already there. Adding new ones was trivial. You added a new attribute enumeration, and suddenly anything you could do to an attribute, you could do to that new one. It was simple, it was fast. And remember, we didn't have any time. We had no time. We were up against the wall towards the end of the production of Fallout. So me asking to add this thing, I had to justify it by saying all the cool things it could do, but also that it was really trivial to add, and it really was. And we hadn't made the new user interfaces yet, which was probably the most work associated with switching over, and we had to do that anyway. So putting in 7 attributes wasn't any harder than doing 6. Now, when I wanted luck added, I wanted it to be somewhat nebulous. All the other attributes were really well defined. Like, these do this, this does this. I wanted luck presented as sort of a nebulous, it helps everywhere, just a little bit. You'll notice it, but it's not a guaranteed thing. You better not rely on it. If you watched my video on the exact effects of special attributes, I'll link it below. It did talk about luck, and I'll briefly go through it here because I want to add something to it. First of all, luck was the base attribute for the gambling skill. So the higher your luck attribute, the higher your starting skill in gambling. That was the only skill it affected directly like that. Some people didn't really like gambling. We thought we'd do more with it. I kind of think maybe it should have either rolled more into barter, because we did have something where you could try to gamble with that, but I wish we had done more with that. Luck also increased the critical success with any skill. Combat skills, and non-combat skills. So whenever you use them, there was a chance it would critical, and then criticals would do something based on the skill. Now, luck had tons of effects inside of combat. It increased the chance that any attack would become a critical success, and decreased the chance that any attack failure would turn into a critical failure. It breaks ties between two combatants that had the same sequence number to see where they were going to go in order. Because remember, it was turn-based and people went in certain orders. Luckier characters attacked first. And finally, luck increased the chance that a ranged attack hit if you had the sniper perk. It increased the chance that that would turn into a critical. Now, this was usually when I'm saying increase, the opposite was true for low luck. It would make that chance lower. It basically was a continuum based on your luck attribute. Another reason I wanted it to be an attribute. On the world map, luck added to the chance that you would get a special encounter. That could be, the used car salesman, where you could also get the BB gun, the big Godzilla footprint, all that. In fact, some special encounters I don't even think you could get without a really high luck. I think it was just you couldn't roll that high. It also reduced the chance that if you got critically hit in the eye, that it would blind you. Because that was a really powerful effect. And I said, let's just get rid of that or reduce it a lot for lucky characters. And then finally, it was a prerequisite for 4 different perks. Better criticals, which increased your critical damage by 20%. That only had 1 rank. Bonus damage, which increased, or bonus range damage, which increased your range damage by 2 per rank. And I think it had 2 ranks. And then there was more criticals, which gave you it converted even more hits to critical hits, and toughness, which increased your damage resistance by, I think it was 10%. Those last 2 had 3 ranks. So there were only 4 perks, but in total there were 9 different ranks of these perks. So there was a number of things you could buy. And all of these required you to have a luck of at least 6. So you couldn't be an average luck character. You had to be a lucky character to get these perks, to buy these perks. That, I thought, added a lot of really cool things into the game. It meant if you made a lucky character, you weren't like amazing in combat, you weren't amazing out of combat, but when you were like exploring, maybe a trap didn't go off, or maybe you spotted it because you get better criticals and less critical failures. Maybe in combat, you weren't that good at shooting, but you tended to survive. Just because maybe they missed you more often. Maybe you critically hit them more often. Maybe you took less damage. Maybe you did more damage. These things were subtle, at least in my opinion, but they made luck this cool thing to have, that if you made a lucky character, especially a very lucky character, the game got a little easier without any changes to the game's difficulty mode. Your character simply had an easier time of things in and out of combat. And I liked that. It was like a game difficulty mode baked into the game itself. And it let you make a lucky character as part of your character build. You could think, well, this guy's not really awesome at any one thing. He just tends to luck out. People tend to, occasionally in dialogue, people believe him, or he convinces somebody. Occasionally in combat, he one-shotted that Deathclaw. Wow. It's just, but it doesn't, you can't guarantee on it. You're like, oh, there's a Deathclaw, I'm going to one-shot him. You can't rely on it. I love it. That's luck to me. I did manage to convince people, helped that I was a project leader, but I did manage to convince people that it would be good. I'm not sure everybody really wanted it, but because it was so easy, and it literally was easy, it was adding 6 new attributes already, it was easy to add that 7th. So it was very easy. These days, though, if I were to make a game with luck in it, I would probably want to make a game where you could buy flaws that weren't, like, not traits, that weren't, here's a bonus and penalty glued together. So if I had a game like Outer Worlds that had flaws, I think luck would work better as a set of perks and flaws. So the perks would be very similar. You get more criticals. You do slightly more damage. You take slightly less damage. And then the flaws could be the opposite. That enemies take less damage, or critical hit more often, or hit more often, or, things like that. And then you could even break it down if you wanted to and say the flaw was against a particular type. Like you're unlucky against robots, so robots do more damage to you. Or you have a bad thing going on with raiders. Whenever raiders attack you, they always seem to be getting criticals. So you could make a very focused flaw like that, and that way the player could go, oh shoot, it's a bunch of robots, or oh no, why does it have to be another raider camp? Because they know their luck tends to fail them in those situations. I think it could be really fun. It could let people make really interesting characters that are fun to conceptualize, but you're not exactly sure if these things will come into play. They often do, but you can't rely on it. That's what I like about luck. That's why I wanted it in Fallout. So I hope you all like this video.